Well, folks, welcome to another episode of Live Chat with James, coming to you from the ProPix TV studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. So it has been a very historic weekend as Canada has appointed a new Prime Minister. This, of course, is through the leadership race to lead the Liberal Party and replace Justin Trudeau. Now, Mark Carney entered that race. He is the former governor of the Bank of Canada. He has been the governor of the Bank of England, as well as many other roles that he has played both in the world of finance and private enterprise. So he has the experience and the knowledge to work his way through these challenging times and to navigate the trade wars that are upon us. Now, Mark Carney is also very well educated, he is articulate, and he understands the global positioning when it comes to politics and other areas of geopolitical climates. As I said, he has worked as the governor of the Bank of Canada, he has worked as the governor of the Bank of England, and he is ready to take on this challenge as the Prime Minister of Canada. His reign as Prime Minister will only last until the election is called. Now, as the election is called, there's a good chance that he will win the future election. I'm anticipating that we will have, good day Singh, welcome to the show. It is anticipated that it will be a short turn in terms of the election call. It is in his opinion that we need a strong mandate and a quick mandate to make sure that we send a clear and decisive message to the U.S. saying that we are not going to be divided. We are going to stand proud and tall as Canadians. We are proud of the nation we have built. We are proud of the nation we are, and we are proud of where the nation is going. I think that a big misfire for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives has been to really be a parrot of the talking points of Trump. And many people call him Trump Light or Trump 2.0. Pierre Poilievre has really lost ground. He was way ahead in the polls right up until the Trump inauguration. As he continued to repeat the name-calling and the bumper sticker slogans that he is famous for, Canadians started to wake up and realize that the more they watched Donald Trump south of the border, the less they wanted Pierre Poilievre to be a representative of that same policy and attitude here in Canada. It is counter to Canadian values. Pierre Poilievre has never held a job outside of politics. The last time he had any type of successful leadership was as a small cell racing millions of others to get to the finish line, where unfortunately he won that race, and it seems to be the only time he's won a race without potential of corruption or foreign interference in it. So we'll just leave that as potential because the jury is still out on whether or not there was foreign interference that resulted in his winning of the of the Conservative leadership race. So we'll leave it at that in terms of bringing that to point, but I will say that Canadians have seen through the transparent and, parrot-like speaking of Pierre Poilievre. He has started to shift his message, but I think it's going to be too little too late. I do believe that even though the Liberal Party has fallen way behind in the polls prior to the inauguration, of Donald Trump south of the border, I think that they've regained that with a huge momentum. And I do also believe that with Mark Carney at the helm of the leadership party, it really brings new life into the party that hasn't been there for many years. Mark Carney, of course, as I stated at the top of this, was the governor of the Bank of Canada. He's been the governor of the Bank of England. He has worked in finance. He knows economics. He is very well educated. He is globally experienced. He's worked with world leaders and others, and he knows policy. And I think that this is of utmost importance at this challenging time that Canada faces ahead. But I also feel that he has the ability to stand strong against the Trump administration and against Donald Trump. Mark Carney, of course, he is relinquishing his citizenship of England and his citizenship of Ireland, I believe it is. And he is a proud Canadian. He comes from a working family. His parents taught him great values and respect for others. The importance of a cooperative approach to deal with issues instead of confrontational. But at the same time, he is Canadian. He won't back down. He's not going to be someone who gets walked over. I found it very interesting that in the acceptance speech that Mark Carney put forward today as the new leader of the Liberal Party, or I guess yesterday now because we're after midnight, but Mark Carney called out Pierre Poilievre, basically stating that he would bow before Donald Trump instead of standing up to him. And that, I think, is a very, very important message that I'm sure as we move to an election we'll hear a lot of. Excuse me, folks. So yeah, I think that Canada is moving in a new direction, but a lot of things that we have seen over the past 9 and almost 10 years of the Liberal Party leading Canada, I think will still be strongly held in terms of values, in terms of direction, in terms of leadership. I think that Mark Carney can be a very polarizing person, that a lot of people will not like him. But at the end of the day, I do believe that he is the right choice to move Canada forward. And I also think that he's really going to reinvigorate the Liberal Party. Excuse me, folks. So yeah, that's where we're at this time. We saw a 91-year-old Jean Chrétien, former Prime Minister of Canada and former leader of the Liberal Party, speak at the event, at the Liberal 2025 event. And he was very reminiscent in his days as a prime minister and the challenges that he faced at that time, and also the various accomplishments of the Liberal Party over the generations. And it was really interesting to see how he speaks about the economy, about the Trump presidency down on in the U.S., but most of all, how he spoke about the history of Canadians coming together and uniting when it was important to our future and to our nation. And I really think that his message was concise. There are a few times where he kind of lost his place in the speech. I think that, being 91 years old and he doesn't wear glasses. So, I mean, maybe it was just the way they were written down on his cheat notes. But in any event, I think that Jean Chrétien delivered a very powerful, very poignant, and a very welcoming speech that Canadians need to hear at this time. He has spent his lifetime working within the political system. He started out as a young liberal in college, and he's been there ever since. Excuse me, and at 91 years old, he's still going strong and definitely is not afraid to speak his mind. We know that for any of us that are old enough to remember Jean Chrétien in office, he was never someone who backed down from a fight. He was never someone who held back when he had a thought, even though it might go against the public opinion. He let it fly. He didn't bow to politics when it came to speaking his mind. He didn't bow to special interest groups or anybody else. He just said it like it was, and I think that's a lot of why he was loved by most, but definitely not everyone. Some people didn't like him whatsoever. But again, you could never accuse him of not speaking his mind when it was important. And some of you may remember the famous event where a protester got too close to him, and instead of his security detail intervening, Chrétien himself grabbed the guy by the throat and put him to the ground. So, some very important notes, but also some funny ones as well. When Chrétien had met with Bill Clinton over the years, back when they were both in office, respectively. They had a good working relationship. They had disagreements, but they always worked through them. And I think that that was a big part of the message that Jean Chrétien got across today, was the need to try and come together, to work together, to find solutions. When you are working as allies in any part of our trade and our mutual benefit, whether that's immigration or such, it definitely works better when you're aligned and working as one, coming up with solutions together. I think that was an important part of his message, in that the current system that's in place of divide and try to do harm to your allies is totally against what the historic relationships have been between Canada and the United States, among between other allies of the world. So again, I thought that Jean Chrétien's speech was well received by the Liberal Party. I think that some of the younger members of the Liberal Party may not have heard some of the stories or know a lot about Jean Chrétien and his time in office. But he was definitely a colorful politician, to say the least. But again, you could never accuse him of holding back when it came to his thoughts and what he wanted to say. With that said, of course, we also witnessed a speech by Justin Trudeau's young daughter. She got up and spoke about her father, about Canada, about the divide that's currently being seen within our nation and within our international community with our allies. But she was very articulate. She was well spoken. But most of all, she is proud of her father, and even more importantly, happy to have him back, for him to be out of the office as the Prime Minister of Canada, so that they can actually spend some quality family time. And I think that what they've been through for the last several years, and you can go back even longer, but especially the last few years, I think have been tough for the family unit. And, I personally would not have wanted Justin Trudeau's job over the last, 5 years even. It's been hell. It's been a no-win battle, and that's what it comes down to. No matter what decisions he made during the pandemic or, with other issues, there was no winning. You were not going to please everyone, and it was such an emotional and such a polarizing issue that it really, really magnified the impact and the anger or frustration that some Canadians felt. And of course, it's the loud, squeaky wheels that get the grease. So of course, people that were very vocal, whether it was through protests in Ottawa or elsewhere, really, really represented the feelings around the world of what Canada was going through. And unfortunately, that group that got all of the media attention around the world was not the majority of Canada. Most Canadians were pretty quiet, laid back, took it as it went, and worked together to get through one of the most challenging times in Canadian history. And so I think that it was unfortunate that he got the brunt of the anger, the frustration, the fear, the confusion. I mean, the list can go on and such. But I, for one, am grateful that we had strong leadership throughout the pandemic and since. And prior to it, I think that with a lot of the anger and frustration online, I understand it. I don't agree with all of it. Some of it, of course, I do. I don't think that the Liberal Party and Justin Trudeau made the best decisions all the way across the board. I think they made great decisions. I think they did the best they could with what they had. And I do believe that they offered strong leadership and advancement for Canadians. We came through the pandemic with one of the strongest economies in the world. We have one of the lowest debt ratios for our GDP and per capita. We have, there's a lot of things that Canadians overlook when they are screaming about politics, and that's okay. That's part of what makes us a great nation, is that we respect and allow people to have a difference of opinion. right or wrong. It's not for me to say. Just because I don't agree with certain things doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means that they are different from my train of thought or my lived experiences or such. By all means, I am one who likes to continue to learn, because sometimes I learn different things than different opinions on different subjects, and that changes my opinion at times, and I'm not afraid to say, hey, do you know what? I was wrong about this, or I was wrong about that in terms of my opinions or my thoughts, or, different things. So again, that's what is great about having the opportunity to listen to people on the other side of issues, is to learn from them. Even if my mind is not changed or my attitude doesn't change towards that particular topic or event or circumstance, at least I've learned a different point of view about it. And that's important, I think, as all Canadians really appreciate that. Moving forward, though, it's going to be interesting to watch how quickly the election is called. I do believe, as I said earlier, I do believe the election call will be swift. I think that over the next month, we're going to have the call for an election. It must be called before October, but again, I think that it's going to be a lot sooner than that. Welcome, Messi, Tony, Eric, Espinoza. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. If you have anything that you'd like to talk about, or if you have an opinion about the current topic, by all means, feel free to share it up on the comments section. It's always good to have differences of opinions and to debate them, or just to talk about them, or even if we have the same opinion, that's always cool too. Or if you have a topic that you'd like to discuss, by all means, put it up in the comments section. We can chat about it tonight. We can always chat about it on another show, whatever the case is. But again, yeah, so Mark Carney will be, by default, as the new leader of the Liberal Party, taking place of Justin Trudeau. When that's going to happen, we don't know, because that will be up to Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau to sit down and discuss what the transition looks like and what time period they feel comfortable with for that transition. I do believe that it will happen very quickly. I don't think that there is going to be a delay on that. I think that it's important to move forward. I also believe that Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau both agree with that it's time to move forward in a new direction under new leadership and not to delay it. I think that that is an important fact. But I also think that Justin Trudeau is excited in some regards in the fact that he can spend more time with his family, and we know that they've been through a lot the last few years. So again, I think that that's an important opportunity that he is looking forward to. And I know that from the speech of his daughter and the expression of his son on the in the audience for tonight's debates, or not debates, sorry, for tonight's speeches, I think they're really looking forward to having their dad around a lot more and less focused on the political world and his job, but instead focused on them. So I think it's a great opportunity for some healing and some advancement for their family. And I hope that the public really, gives them that privacy and the respect to do that. He is no longer the one making policy and making changes and directing the country. So I hope that Canadians can instead step back and thank him for what he did, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with his policies or not. He did take a job that most of us would never want to do, and sure as hell wouldn't do it as well as he did. Again, not saying he's perfect, but again, he did a heck of a lot better than I ever could have or would want to. I wouldn't want to lead Canada, especially through everything that he's led us through in the last few years. When it comes to Donald Trump, though, Mark Carney did not hold back. He put them on notice that Canada is not going to back down, that Canada will not ever be the 51st state. And I really don't think that Mark Carney is going to be putting up with being referred to as the Governor of Canada. I think that he will take a very, very firm stance on that. And he is ready to do battle with the U.S. when it comes to the trade war. Mark Carney, as I said, has led the Bank of Canada as the governor of the Bank of Canada. He has been the governor of the Bank of England. He understands building economies. He understands finance. He understands economics. He understands what a tariff is. Let's face it. And he is not going to back down from Donald Trump. And I think that that is a very, very important part of what's going to form the next election. As I said, I think it's going to come up very quickly. But again, I think that Mark Carney's experience in the world of finance, economics, and so forth is going to be a big threat to the Trump administration in feeling like they can get away with what they have been. I'm not saying that that Justin Trudeau has been rolling over for the U.S. in any way, shape, or form. He has been very steadfast. He has stood tall. He has stood firm, and he has stood for all Canadians. But at the same time, he knew that there was a pending transition. So at the same time, he had the diplomatic respect for the next leader of the Liberal Party to not put them in too difficult of a position, to allow them the freedom to move forward in the way which they see fit. And as I said, now that we know it is Mark Carney, I do believe that there is going to be either a real pushback to the U.S. and a strong fight on their hands when it comes to the trade war and the lies and misinformation coming out of the White House about Canada. So I think that that's going to really change, and that's going to be an important step for Mark Carney to put his foot down and call out the bullshit of the Trump administration. In terms of the policies, I think that a lot of people are still looking at the carbon tax as a negative when it comes to the political parties and looking at that. Mark Carney is looking at a different way of doing things, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I think that the consumers are still going to be paying one way or the other. But I also think that there needs to be a lot more research done by people who don't understand the carbon tax, how it works, and how it benefits our country and our policy. Especially in this time with the U.S. cutting corners on environmental protections, on pollution, on the environment as a whole. I think that it's important for Canada to stay their ground, to stay neutral in terms of the fact that we have our way of doing things. The U.S. can do whatever they want, but we're not following suit. We are going for what's best for Canada and our future, and that is the important message, I think, for everyone. Once again, I think that the conservative led by Pierre Poilievre, I think is really something that the Conservative Party needs to look at, whether or not they will make a major change before the election call by Mark Carney. We'll have to wait and see. I don't believe that the Conservatives can win or be as strong as they have been in the polls with the leadership or the lack of when it comes to Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre has been essentially a parrot of talking points of the U.S. government and and of Trump. He has been seen, as I said earlier, as Trump's mini-me, but even Trump says he's not MAGA enough, and that, I think, really hurt PP's feelings. And I've noticed lately that Pierre Poilievre has been less in the media, less inclined to be using his bumper sticker slogans every chance he gets and being smug and arrogant, instead of actually speaking with people. He has a very smug arrogance about him. And I think that that is where the Conservative Party is really going to see a drop even further than they have in the polling and in the race for the premier, in relation to the race for the prime minister position in Canada. I think that when the election is called, I think Pierre Poilievre has burned out his political power and his political points. I think that the Conservative Party would be really amiss if they didn't look at the opportunity to make a major change in their leadership at this time. I think that the questions over foreign interference by India, by Russia, by China still cast a very big dark cloud over the Conservative Party. It is they've been accused of basically being subjected to, but also being a party to, in some regards, to the political interference of India, Narendra Modi, the RSS, among others. And that, I think, is going to play out as a very big negative for the Conservatives as a whole. I think that they need to do a lot of housekeeping internally and deal with the foreign interference issue before any election is called. And that time, of course, that window is closing very quickly. With that said, that is a part of why I believe there will be a quick election call in Canada by Mark Carney, in the fact that they have the momentum right now that I believe would carry them forward to a majority government, and to catch the Conservatives off guard as much as they can. The NDP, of course, we know that they are very unlikely to have the seats won and the support nationwide to put them in office as Mr. Singh for the Prime Minister. But I do believe that they have a great opportunity to expand the number of seats that they hold and to expand their supporter base at the cost of the Conservatives after what we've seen out of Pierre Poilievre since Trump has been in office. It's gone downhill for him. So I really think that, again, I think that Jagmeet Singh and the NDP party has a prime opportunity to pick up seats and support nationwide. So I hope that they do that. I really believe that they have some great ideas, some great policies, and for them to have a bit more of a foothold in Ottawa, I think could do nothing but benefit all Canadians. You could also look at the background of Jagmeet Singh and others, and when they bring their Sikhi beliefs into their way of leading, I think is very important because of the tenets of Sikhi being, community service, equality, just the acceptance of everyone, and not wanting to recruit you for the Sikhi beliefs, but instead to help you to be better at whatever it is that you do and whatever religion that you are involved with. So, for example, Sikhi is not to take anyone away from Christianity, but to help them to become better Christians. And I think that that is a powerful leadership opportunity when it comes to, or leadership quality that Jagmeet Singh brings to the table. So I have a lot of respect for him as well. And so, I think that we are seeing a change in the attitudes in Canada, the change in the political field, and the real buckling down to stand up for Canada, for our sovereignty, and to diversify our trade partners into the world. And with that, Mark Carney also took a shot at Donald Trump by very clearly stating that he is going to be looking for new trade partners that are reliable. And he emphasized the word reliable partners. So, he is definitely sending a clear message to Donald Trump and the administration that Canada will not back down, that we will look for new trade partners to trade with instead of just taking the shit that America wants to throw at us. We are instead going to stand proud and stand tall as Canadians. We will move our trade to other nations. You are going to respect it and respect agreements that are come to. So, you have the Canada-US-Mexico agreement that Donald Trump himself negotiated, and then comes in and says that it's the worst deal ever, but it's only he that has responsibility on that when it comes to the American perspective of that trade agreement. Now, the reality being is that Donald Trump is corrupt. He is a criminal, and he is about to lead the U.S., or has already taken the U.S. in a very, very dark direction. I think that they're kissing up with Putin, with China, with North Korea. I think there's a lot to be concerned about for global stability, for geopolitical reasons, and of course, for the security of all Americans and the world. I think that Donald Trump's ability to lead is not there. I think that, in my personal opinion, I wouldn't doubt it if he's suffering from some cognitive impairments. And basically, he is a puppet of Vladimir Putin. And, it must be very uncomfortable for Trump to sit down with Putin's hands so far up his ass he can control his mouth like a puppet. It is just disgusting. When you look at the inclusion of Elon Musk and his so-called Doge program or administration or whatever the hell they're going to call it this week to avoid court liability and judges, again, there is a real concern about the way that they are handling the U.S. economy, the way they're handling the U.S. Workforce, and what they are doing in terms of global security and national security in the United States. By taking out your closest allies in Canada and Mexico, it really does not give a lot of incentive for these nations that surround you to help protect your borders, especially when you are spewing misinformation, disinformation, and out lies about those nations and the security risks they pose. And that is a major concern of Canadians, is that we have been allies for decades, for generations, and we have always had a good working relationship with the U.S. We've always been good family, good partners, and such. And Canadians feel betrayed. Let's face it, they feel betrayed by a close ally and friend. And that is where we are at this time. A lot of Canadians are very insulted. They are incensed, and they do not have any respect for the leader of the United States. Now, on some news programs in the U.S., you see that they have this redneck from Alberta who's talking about Alberta joining the United States, the province of Alberta becoming a state of the U.S. And, they're making it out that he has a huge supporter base and following and, so forth. But the guy's got hundreds of people. It's a bunch of idiots that are loud and obnoxious and think that they are speaking for a majority, when really they're speaking for a couple hundred people out of millions. So really, get a life. And for the news agencies who are jumping on that, pretending that it's actually something when it's not, again, get a life. When it comes to the future of Canada-U.S. relations, we'll watch and see. But I do think that it's getting interesting now in the United States, as I brought up Elon Musk earlier, and the potential connections with him and China, with millions or tens of millions of dollars being funneled in through offshore accounts into investments of SpaceX and other Musk-controlled entities or owned companies. And that is something that's coming out in the news. I think we're going to learn a lot more about that. But again, it is not illegal activity, but it definitely is shady practices. And also with him being in the Oval Office and we don't know, controlling Trump, or at least being a party to Trump's bullshit, it's very concerning, or at least it should be, that Musk has received all of this secret investment from Chinese oligarchs and the Chinese government. So again, that should be very concerning as well. But people tend to be looking past a lot of what's going on in the U.S. political sphere when it comes to Trump, when it comes to Musk, when it comes to J.D. Vance. I mean, it's amazing what they are putting up with down there. And we'll just leave it at that, because I could go off on an hour-long rant about Trump, about the corruption, about the, about just so many different things. And I'll leave that for another show, because I do believe there's a lot to discuss there. And I think that Americans are really being duped. And a big part of that is, again, foreign interference. The different governments of the world, for example, India or Russia, they're spending tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a year on online campaigns to create false information, to create false news, to create false narratives, and to influence public opinion. Now, when you look at even in Canada, that has been the case as well. And after Justin Trudeau called out Narendra Modi and the Indian government for foreign interference and for transnational repression, in the alleged involvement of the government of India with the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, the attempted assassination of Mr. Panun down in New York. The India government targeted Justin Trudeau in a misinformation campaign online and spent millions of dollars to undermine him. And again, that is a part of the problem, is that people are taking information online and believing it as the truth. A lot of these are the utilization of bots. They utilize bots so that they automatically counter any narratives that are against what they want out there. So, for example, again, the Trump campaign, anything negative about Trump, it's alleged that the Russian bots automatically responded to social media posts to drown out any of the negativity and try to push positive influence and such. So again, there was clearly interference by the Russians that has now come out. Whether or not it would have influenced the outcome of the U.S. election, who knows? But at the same time, it should be very concerning to the American public that, you know, there were allegations of China, Russia, Iran, not Iraq, Iran, all of these different nations, North Korea, that they were rumored to be involved in political interference and foreign interference when it came to the U.S. election. And here you are, you know, a month and a half, 2 months into the administration of Donald Trump. And now he is bowing over or bowing down and taking control and lead by the Russians, by the Chinese, by the Iranians. And no matter what happens, he cannot make a policy idea last for more than 24 hours without reversing it when it comes to world politics and geopolitics. So again, there's absolutely no consistency there. There's no clear message. There's no clear mandate. And even Donald Trump doesn't know what the hell he's doing from day to day. And that should be concerning. But as I said, most concerning should be the fact that Donald Trump is basically catering to Putin and to other nations that have been accused of being involved in foreign interference to help him swing the election in the U.S. In his favor. And whether there was corruption and illegal activity involved in that election, I don't know. But I definitely have suspicions, and I don't care what anybody says. I do believe that there was nefarious activity in the U.S. elections that helped Trump to win. And with that, I'll leave you on that note tonight. Once again, thanks for tuning in to Live Chat with James here on ProPix TV, coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. Watch again tomorrow night as we are live on TikTok, and then we repost the segments to all other platforms. If you have any story ideas, by all means, be a part of the show by putting your topic ideas in the comment section. And of course, even if it is a repeat broadcast on YouTube or Facebook or anywhere else, I do read the comments and I do take suggestions. So if you have any suggested topics for the show, by all means, put them in the comment section. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for tuning in. This is James Cousineau from ProPix TV in Vancouver, British Columbia. We'll see you tomorrow.